You've definitely heard the term cloud native being thrown around everywhere, right? But what does it actually really mean? Well, today we're going to crack that nut open. Using the book Cloud Native Spring in Action as our guide, we're going to make sense of it all. Let's dive right in.
So, first things first, let's start with the most important question. Why? Why do we even need a new approach? Why can't we just keep building software the same old way we always have? I mean, it worked before, right?
Well, the answer really lies in the absolutely insane pressures of the modern business world. The old ways of building software, they just can't keep up with what's demanded of them today. It's a whole new ballgame.
And this slide right here, this really gets to the heart of it. It all boils down to 4 key goals. Businesses need applications that have incredible speed to beat the competition, rock-solid resilience so they're always on, massive scale to handle growth, and of course, they have to be cost-effective. Let's break each of those down.
Okay, first up, speed. In today's market, getting a new idea out to your customers faster isn't just nice to have, it is a massive, critical competitive advantage. It's all about shrinking that feedback loop, delivering value faster, and just plain staying ahead of everyone else. Next up, resilience. Let's be honest, we all expect our favorite apps to just work. All the time, 24/7, no excuses. For a business, every single minute of downtime means lost money and, maybe even worse, lost trust. Failure is simply not an option anymore.
So, to handle all these challenges, a new approach was born, Cloud Native. And this slide illustrates maybe the single most important idea to grasp. Cloud Native is not about where your app runs. It's about how it's built, how it's designed, and how it's operated.
And you don't have to just take my word for it. Here's the official definition from the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, or the CNCF. They say it's about empowering organizations to build scalable apps in these new, dynamic environments. The goal is systems that are resilient, manageable, and easy to observe.
Now that definition is a bit of a mouthful, a little academic, so let's simplify it. I like to think of Cloud Native as the 3 Ps. It's about the platforms you run on, the properties you design into your applications, and the practices your teams adopt.
Let's talk about one of those core properties, scalability. The old way to scale was vertical. You just make one machine more and more powerful. It's like giving one cashier a super fast register. It helps, but only up to a point. The cloud native way is horizontal. You just add more cashiers. It's way more flexible and, honestly, almost infinitely powerful.
We also talked about resilience. So what does that actually mean in practice? It's the ability of your system to basically take a punch, to keep on providing service even when things inevitably go wrong. Because, trust me, they will go wrong.
And that brings us to a huge mental shift. Seriously, in the old world, we treated failures like these rare, terrible exceptions. In the cloud, changes and faults are happening constantly. They're not the exception, they're the rule. And you have to design for that reality from the very beginning.
Okay, so how do we actually build systems that can live in this chaotic new world? It all starts with a fundamental shift in how we think about our infrastructure.
In the past, it was simple. The target for our application was a single, specific machine. We knew its name, we knew its IP address, we probably even gave it a cool server name from a sci-fi movie, right?
The new world is completely different. We don't deploy to a specific machine anymore. Instead, we just sort of throw our application into a cluster. It's this giant, abstract pool of resources, and it figures out where to run things for us.
And this analogy perfectly illustrates the change. We used to have Snowflake servers. Each one was unique, handcrafted. You treated it like a pet. If it got sick, you'd nurse it back to health. Now, we have immutable servers. We treat them like cattle. If one has a problem, you don't fix it, you just replace it with a brand new, identical one.
Okay, so that's the big idea. But let's get a little more concrete. How is this all actually built? What are the core technologies that make this blueprint a reality?
Well, the first key piece of the puzzle is the container. Honestly, the best way to think about it is as a standardized box. It holds your application and everything it needs to run. This little box makes your app incredibly portable and efficient, so it can run pretty much anywhere. Now, why are containers such a game changer? This slide nails it. On the left, you have virtual machines. They're heavy because each one needs its own entire operating system. On the right, you have containers. They're way leaner because they all share the operating system of the host machine. That makes them incredibly lightweight and super, super fast.
Okay, so having a bunch of these zippy little containers is great. But what happens when you have hundreds or even thousands of them? You can't manage that by hand. You'd go insane. You need a brain to manage the whole operation. And that's where orchestration comes in.
An orchestrator, and the most famous one is Kubernetes, is basically the operating system for your entire cluster. It automates all the hard stuff for you, figuring out where to run your containers, scaling up when traffic spikes, helping them find each other, and constantly watching to see if any of them fail so it can replace them automatically.
So if we put it all together, the modern workflow is actually pretty simple, at least in concept. Step 1, you write your code. Step 2, you package it up into one of those standard containers. And Step 3, you just hand it over to your Kubernetes cluster and say, hey, run this for me.
But here's the thing. All of this amazing technology is basically useless without a fundamental shift in culture. This quote from Amazon's CTO Werner Vogels is legendary for a reason. You build it, you run it. This is the core of the DevOps mindset. The team that writes the code is also responsible for keeping it running in the real world.
And that brings us right back to our main takeaway. Cloud native isn't just one thing you can buy or install. It's a holistic approach. It's like a three-legged stool. You need the right platform and technology, the right properties in your architecture, and the right practices and culture. If any one of those legs is missing, the whole thing just falls over.
So, we'll leave you with this one last thought. These principles we've talked about, they aren't just a trend anymore. They are rapidly becoming the new standard for how we build modern, reliable software. Which leads to a pretty critical question for the future. What happens to the systems and the businesses that can't adapt?